What's shaking, my friends? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Shay, and today we're going to talk about what I'm going to read in the month of August. So if you don't know how I normally do my TBR videos, I use the jars to pick my books or help pick my books as it may. So how this works is I have several different jars, which I will pull 4 books out of each of these jars. I hold myself accountable to reading 1 book out of each jar, and if I do not read at least 1 book out of each jar, I will have to read 2 books out of that jar for the next month. If you must know, I did complete the books out of my jars. Yes, celebration, so I will not be having to read multiple books out of jars this month. For August, a couple of things. I did take away my series jar because I don't have that many series and I keep just picking the same series. So I'm still going to hold myself accountable to reading 1 continuation of a series, but I'm just not going to draw because I don't have that many series to choose from. So now we are back down to 4 jars. That is the new releases jar, the owned jar, the backlist jar, the indie self-pub jar, and of course then I will be reading 1 continuation of a series. So that is 5 books that I'm holding myself accountable to read, and the reason for this is just so I am kind of mixing up my reads. I'm not having them all be new releases or all backlist books or all owned books, etc. I am kind of helping to mix those up. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and get to the picks. So I'm gonna draw the books out of the jars, and then I will come back after I draw and let you know what these books are all about. So first we have our new releases jar. I did, prior to this video, I dumped all of them out. I shuffled all of them, and now we're going to draw 4 books. This is Before She Finds Me. Okay, that's 1. Witch King, which of course I haven't heard the best things about. Sorry about the lighting, but this says What Have We Done? And lastly, we have Retro. So these are definitely interesting picks. I can't remember what every single one of them is about, but we will come back after I finish pulling and we will find out. Now 4 out of the own jar. I did the same thing for this. I dumped them out, I shook them up and put them back in the jar. This jar is getting very large. This is The Land of the Undying Lord. That is a self-published book, I believe. Darkblade Assassin, that is also a self-published book, and it's a large, very chunky one. I do own the audio. Most of these are coming up, the ones that I own the audio of. The Bone Ships, which I own a physical copy because I have this beautiful broken binding copy over here. We have, I should have just wrote on here, tomorrow times 3. Tomorrow, if you cannot see that. Indie Self-Pub, we'll go ahead and draw. This jar is also very full as I have gotten some more recommendations. This is going to be Forged in the Fallout by Ben Green, I believe. I read the first chapter of that first book by 9. Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. I think that's how you say his name. I'm not sure. That is also a chunker. Okay. The Reunion, which is a romance by Megan Quinn. Would not be complete without a romance novel in here. And then we have Panacea, also by Alex Robbins, I think, and also in Spiffbo 9. This is my backlist pouch because I don't have a jar big enough for these two fit. So we will Parable of the Sower. Born a Crime, got some non-fiction in here. Love to see it. Lots of different genres. Fly with the Arrow. A Star Named Vega. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I have picked all these books, and let's see what these are all about. Okay, so I have researched all of these books. I am back. I will tell you that this set of books is very, very self-published heavy. and I like it. I like it. However, don't take offense if this is your book and I don't read it, because there is a set number of books that I can read with my eyes only. I am mostly an audio reader. A lot of self-pub does not have an audiobook. So I will read some self-published books, but I obviously can't read all self-published books because I like to listen to audio when I'm cleaning or cooking or doing whatever it may be. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the books that I pulled. The first jar I pulled out of was New Releases jar. So the first one was Before She Finds Me. This is by Heather Chavez. This is, I believe, a mystery thriller. Yes, in this shocking thriller, two unlikely mothers race to uncover the truth behind a horrific attack, even after it becomes clear that the truth will destroy one of their families. I don't know what it has to do with, but they're both moving their daughters, I think, into college. But I don't like to know a lot going into my mystery thrillers. So the next one I pulled was Witch King by Martha Wells. And while I haven't heard the best things about this book, I have had a few friends that have liked it. So a story of power and friendship, of trust and betrayal, and of the families we choose. Kai's having a long day in Martha Wells' Witch King. After being murdered, his consciousness dormant and unaware of the passing of time while confined in an elaborate water trap, Kai wakes to find a lesser mage attempting to harness Kai's magic to his own advantage. That was never going to go well. But why was Kai imprisoned in the first place? What has changed in the world since his assassination? And why does the Rising World Coalition appear to be growing in influence? So it sounds like a kind of a political story, which you know that I like. We also have What Have We Done by Alex Finlay. I read Alex Finlay's first book and I can't remember what it was called at this point in time. I didn't read the one he came out with last year, but I'm interested in this one. A tale about the lives we leave behind and the secrets we carry with us forever. A stay-at-home mom with a past, a has-been rock star with a habit, a reality TV producer with a debt. 3 disparate lives, 1 deadly secret. So again, all I need to know for a mystery thriller. What's a TBR without me pulling at least one January new release? And that's going to be Retro by Sophia Lapuente and Jared Schusterman. So we all know Neil Schusterman, and he also wrote a book with his son called Dry, which I haven't read. It is in my backlist jar though. This one is one where he has written Neil Schusterman's son has written a novel with Sophia Lapuente. So, I love the cover of this. What starts off as a lighthearted competition to live without modern technology for a year turns into a fight for survival. That's all we need to know. Young adult thriller. I'm not the best on these, but I am willing to give it a go. Then, let's talk about what I pulled out of my owned jar. So, first, Assassin. Darkblade Assassin by Andy Peliquin. I think it is. This is a self-published. It is a chunky boy. It is a chunky boy. I own this one on audiobook. All in Veramis know the legend of the hunter. Relentless, immortal, death-walking. The greatest assassin who ever lived. Pay the master killer his due, and the hunter will execute any target, carry out any contract, no matter how impossible. But when the Bloody Hand crime syndicate harms the innocents under his protection, they foolishly make an enemy of the one man they can't afford to anger. The price of the hunter's revenge is high, paid in blood and eternal damnation. Not even an army of crooks, cutthroats, and demonic creatures of nightmare can stand in his way. He's far more than just one man. He's the keeper, damned hunter of the Veramis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing any of that right, but that sounds very interesting. It is a very chunky boy though, so we will have to see. Another self-pub book I got on here, I believe this is self-pub, is The Land of the Undying Lord by J.T. Wright. We are loving the self-published books this year. Okay. The infinite world, ever-changing and ever-growing. New nations and races rose and fell almost daily. New classes were discovered as old ways were lost. Monsters and beasts roamed the earth and were slain by soldiers and adventurers who were in turn killed by stronger threats. Heroes and villains created new epics and were forgotten when their successors appeared. This was the way of the infinite world. Summoned into this chaotic place, a young boy with no name and no past must learn to survive. Bound to a master who doesn't care whether he lives or dies, he must become stronger. The question is how? Do the people around him value him for who he is, or merely for what he represents. The world holds endless possibilities. Only time will tell what the future holds for this boy. So that's exciting. A younger kind of protagonist. I'm not sure if it's YA or if it's adult. I don't know, but I'm interested to read it. Then we got The Bone Ships, which I now own thanks to the wonderful Broken Binding edition. I actually owned this on Kindle prior to this, so I own it twice. This says, 2 nations at war, a prize beyond compare. For generations, the 100 Isles have built their ships from the bones of ancient dragons to fight an endless war. The dragons disappeared, but the battles for supremacy persisted. Now, the first dragon in centuries has been spotted in far-off waters, and both sides see a chance to shift the balance of power in their favor, because whoever catches it will win not only glory, but war. So, a nautical seafaring adventure with dragons. Count me in. Then we have the lovely darling of last year, and that's going to be Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which won the Book of the Month's Book of the Year for 2022, which is what this edition is. I've heard people like this book. I've heard people not like this book. I think that it gets compared a lot to Ready Player One, which I absolutely loved. The tagline is, 2 friends, often in love but never lovers, come together as creative partners in the world of video game design, where success brings them fame, joy, tragedy, duplicity, and ultimately a kind of immortality. So I'm interested to read this. I don't want to know much about this going in. I think it has a mystery component to it. I also think that it can be a little sad. So, but we will see. We will see if I like it or if I read it this month. Then let's go ahead and get to what I pulled out of my self-pubbed indie jar. Of course, I'm pulling the chunkers this month, and I pulled Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. I actually own this one on audio as well. So let's see what it says. Born in fire, tempered in blood, Etheria is a land divided by war and mistrust. The High Lords of the South squabble and fight, only kept in check by the Dragon Guard, traitors of a time long past who served the Empire of the North. In the remote villages of southern Etheria, still reeling from the tragic loss of his brother, Kaelin Briar prepares for the proving, a test of courage and skill that not all survive. But when 3 strangers arrive in the village of Milltown with a secret they are willing to die for, Kaelin's world is ripped from under him, and he is thrust headfirst into a war that has been raging for centuries. There is no prophecy. His coming was not foretold. He bleeds like any man, and bleed he will. So this is one of those series that I really, really have wanted to get into, because I see everybody rave and love this series, and I am very much intrigued. But another dragon story, so that's fantastic. Next we have Forged in the Fallout by Ben Green. I did read the first chapter of this. I actually read more than the first chapter because I was intrigued. This is a YA. I'll read you what it says. A world filled with neon dreams and nuclear magic, a coming-of-age dystopia centered around dungeons, family, and dangerous secrets, with all the young adult cyberpunk feels and plenty of action-adventure to keep you turning the pages. If I can recall, this boy has grown up in this world. He is taking care of his sick father, and something happens one day when he realizes things are not quite what he has grown up to know, and his father has been keeping some secrets from him, and so I have been interested to read it ever since. The next one is Panacea by Alex Robbins, which is another Spiffo 9 entry. I read the first chapter of this. I really loved it. I also love this cover. So let me read what it says. At the heart of every legend lies a truth, twisted and reshaped by the currents of time. For 20 years, Dexios has led the phalanx of Athena against its enemies, pulled from one battleground to another in a relentless cycle of war and bloodshed. Now, finally, he has found the courage to leave that life behind, to relinquish his officer's sword and return to the verdant slopes of his vineyard with his wife and son. Peace, however, is fragile and capricious. When Athena's northern allies bring word of an enormous Tauran horde gathering on their borders, Dexios has no choice but to answer the call to arms one last time. As humans and Tauros collide, another evil wakes. Whispered rumors of a clawed creature that stalks the shadowy street. Of violent murders committed in the name of deities long thought vanquished. To speak their names is heresy. They are the exiled, the banished, the ruined gods. So it sounds ominous, and it sounds like it has a lot of maybe pulls in from Greek mythology. I'm not sure, but interested to read it. I also think it is a chunker. Then we have The Romance by Megan Quinn. So I can't remember what the like short story novel, The Night something, I can't remember what it was, but I read the prequel to the reunion and really found it super hilarious. If you don't know, like, I don't read a lot of rom-coms, but I think Megan Quinn does it very, very well. So this is called The Reunion, and it is about the antics that ensue when three siblings come together for their parents' 50th anniversary party. Martin and Peggy Chance believe love should last a lifetime. With their 50th wedding anniversary on the horizon, they've modeled a beautiful relationship for their three grown children. But to their dismay, that lesson hasn't quite caught on. The three siblings just can't seem to take a chance and find love in their own lives. So that's all I really need to know about a romance. I do remember the little prequel novella was about these parents trying to find a date for their son, and it was hilarious, and I cannot wait to read it. Now, moving into my backlist. So a lot of these were also self-pub books. Before I made my self-pub jar, which by the way was just made last month, I had a lot of books that were already in my backlist jar. So it's okay, because we love self-pub. We want to give them all the love. Let's go ahead and talk about these books. So, A Star Named Vega. This is by Benjamin J. Roberts. I'm not sure how I got a hold of this one, but I did. Obviously, it was recommended to me. Androids, starships, hackers, and spray paint. In the high-tech paradise of the 30th century, a rebellious young street artist finds herself leading the charge to save a warrior race from extermination. Sounds like kind of like a sci-fi thing. It's definitely young adult, I believe, but I am not opposed to that. The next one is Fly with the Arrow by Sarah K.L. Wilson, and I think that this one was in SPIFBO one year, and that's how I came across it. A Stolen Bride, a terrifying bridegroom, the game that will determine their fates. No one told her the most important law of the court, the law of greeting. If they had, maybe she wouldn't have greeted Bluebeard when he arrived to claim a mortal wife. And if she hadn't greeted him, she wouldn't have become his 16th wife or been swept away to the lands of the Windheim. But if none of that had happened, then she wouldn't have been an integral part of the game that takes place every 200 years, a game that determines the fates of nations. For not all is as it seems, not in her homeland of Pensmore, not in the Wittenheim, and certainly not in her new marriage. So that sounds intriguing. I also really love this cover. Then we have Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. She is an author that I have wanted to read for the longest time, and this may be the opportunity to do it. In 2025, with the world descending into madness and anarchy, one woman begins a fateful journey toward a better future. Lauren Alamina and her family live in one of the only safe neighborhoods remaining on the outskirts of Los Angeles. Behind the walls of their defended enclave, Lauren's father, a preacher, and a handful of other citizens try to salvage what remains of a culture that has been destroyed by drugs, disease, war, and chronic water shortages. While her father tries to lead people on the righteous path, Lauren struggles with hyperempathy, a condition that makes her extraordinarily sensitive to the pain of others. When fire destroys their compound, Lauren's family is killed and she is forced out into a world that is fraught with danger. With a handful of other refugees, Lauren must make her way north to safety, along the way conceiving a revolutionary idea that may mean salvation for all. So it's interesting because I think this was written way back in the day. So to Octavia Butler, 2025 was way into the future. And as you know, we are almost to 2025. So interesting. And then we have, of course, Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. Got some nonfiction in here. The memoir of one man's coming of age set during the twilight of apartheid and the tumultuous days of freedom that followed. Trevor Noah's unlikely path from apartheid South Africa to the desk of The Daily Show began with a criminal act, his birth. And I'm interested to definitely read that one as well. So many good books this month. What will I read? Who knows? You will have to tune into my August wrap-up to see. I, of course, always want to read additional books as well, or have other books planned. So I will go ahead and tell you that if I can get to Lightbringer this month, I will. That will be the sequel that I continue. If I get to another sequel, I would like to read Persepolis by Michael J. Sullivan, just because that is the number 6 in the series. It's the last book in that series for me, and I would like to kind of finish that off. That's kind of all that I really want to plan to read. However, I've decided to, if you don't know, in the month of May, my backlist jar was hefty, it still is, and I chose to kind of do a week or two of pulling books out of here and reading those books, which I think that I will bring back in August, except I'm going to be doing it with my owned jar. So because in the past couple months, it was my birthday month, I have purchased a ridiculous amount of books, whether that be physical or audio or Kindle, whatever it may be. I have purchased an absolutely ridiculous amount. So for a week and a half, 2 weeks, who is to know, I will be vlogging the experience of picking a book out of this jar and reading that book, and hopefully get some 3 to 4 books out of that owned jar, while I also read 5 of these lovely books. So we'll just kind of have to see how August shapes up, but after pulling these books, I am super excited to go ahead and dive in. I cannot wait till August the 1st. Tell me what you guys are going to be reading in August. I for sure want to know, have you read any of the books that I have read? What did you think of them? I need to know all of the details. All right, I will catch you guys in the next video.